Well, hello and welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. I'm your host, Corey Sievers, and it's great to be able to be spending some time with you here, chatting about all things health improvement, money and finances, and also dealing with the mental space and what we can do to help make you wiser. Is that it? Great that you're spending some time with me here too. I'd love to know that you're joining, so please let me know in the comments so I can see that you're joining in. We're doing something a bit different this time here on the show. We are experimenting with multi-streaming to all sorts of different places. So at the moment, you may be joining us on YouTube, you may be joining us on Periscope or Facebook, all things going well. And so, look, my goal here is just to spend a bit of time with you discussing things, and we've got some topics to cover, and we also have we're going to be spending the time to really be able to answer your questions, spend some time with you and talk. So all sorts of things going on the show today. Let me just share with you what we'll be dealing with here on the show. Maybe or maybe not. This is the thing about being live with you on the show. I did have the screen there for you, but let me just tell you, we're going to be going through, first in healthy, we're going to be dealing with leaky gut and some of the signs for leaky gut. And then we'll be dealing with some 8 tips to help you in wealthy, 8 tips to help you to really achieve financial freedom faster. And in Wise, I'll be actually giving you 10 top tips for nervous news speakers. So, whether it's, look, the fear of public speaking, people fear public speaking more than they fear death. So obviously it's a big fear here. And so I want to share with you some tips that I've learned through my experience, and especially in any business endeavor, career, or whatever, you're going to end up needing to be able to confidently get your message across. And so, I first put these tips together and shared it actually at a speakers conference about 10 years ago now. And so it's been a long time since I shared them, and I want to share them with you. So all that and more coming up on the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. So if you're joining us live, then please let me know in the comments. I'd love to be able to communicate with you and know that you're there. And if you're joining on the replay, then also let us know so that we can, be in touch and be able to say hi. So, great to have you here. If you have any questions too, then do ask, because we'll have some time at the end of each segment just to have a chat with you and really deal with that. So if you are new to what we do here in the Savvy team, then we're all about helping you enjoy improved health and lifestyle. And so we have a whole range of different action plans and wellness programs. But in essence, our goal is to inspire you, to motivate, and to guide you to that higher level of health and lifestyle. And so since we're dealing with the concept of well-being in this first section anyway, of healthy, and why the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show? What's it all really about? Well, ultimately, we believe in the concept of holistic wellness, where, you're not just looking at the symptoms and the issues and everything. You as a whole person needs to be taken into account. And so that really means it's not just the nutritional and, that sort of, or environmental pollution types of things, or physical. It also takes into account the social, attitudinal, emotional, intellectual, and all of these sorts of things. So that's where this holistic wellness wheel is so important. And also, really, that central purpose, feeling like you have a purpose and you have a direction in life and all that sort of thing. And so also what we find is community is so important. As we reach out into this digital world, sometimes people find that they're isolated and they don't have like-minded people to be able to communicate with. And that's why what we do here in the Savvy team is just so powerful. So yes, we actually have a full online class related to this whole concept of holistic well-being. But going to be dealing with leaky gut in the healthy section. And so, this whole illness wellness continuum is so important to realize that, our paradigm is that if you look at the little emoticon man here, we're not sick one day and healthy the next. Or we're also not healthy and then suddenly sick. Okay, many people say, oh, look, I was so good for so long and then suddenly this happened. Usually it wasn't all of a sudden. Certainly with the body, there is an element of, the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. That is certainly there. And so sometimes things can seem as though it all just went wrong at once. And we're going to be dealing with the concept of leaky gut and also some of the associated issues with that. And so any gut health problem that you may have been suffering from, though, it may, there were probably symptoms. It didn't just suddenly come on. And so, by the way, if you know anyone with gut issues and all that sort of thing, then please do share this. We're on a mission here in the Savvy team to really spread the message of holistic well-being and the fact that actions can be taken to stack the odds in your favor as far as preventing illness. So lots of people need to know about this. It's just not part of the typical paradigm. The typical paradigm, as I was really going through here, is to really look for the treatment paradigm is looking for the signs and the symptoms to show up and then to do something about it. Whereas the wellness paradigm, can be applied anywhere along this illness-wellness continuum. So if you do have some signs and symptoms, then and you're already seeking treatment, then a wellness paradigm can help because it's a complementary paradigm. But it will take you further than just the not sick point. And so that's a really fundamental thing about what we do here in our wellness. It's not that hard philosophy. And so, as I said, we do have a free online class related to that. But as we're getting underway here, talking about the concept of leaky gut, it's important that you understand that the information that I'll be sharing reflects my personal research and experience and is for educational purposes only, so should not be seen as any medical advice. The information is general in nature, and so all individual health concerns have not been taken into account. Comments and experiences should not be interpreted as therapeutic claims. So if you have any question as to the appropriateness of the information with regards to your own health, please do discuss this with your healthcare provider. That being said, we encourage you to take self-responsibility for your own well-being and learn more on this topic and on complementary medicine in general. And I think that is a really important thing to say, that, we're in a system here, we're in a medical model in most of the places that we're broadcasting to here, where we suggest, you have to have somebody that is taking care of your needs as such, somebody, so we say, go see your doctor. But for example, we're dealing with this concept of leaky gut, and since there isn't an established treatment paradigm for leaky gut, therefore it's not considered a condition that they even acknowledge. So many people suffer needlessly because there basically isn't a paradigm that can help. And so this is where we really need to look holistically, and where we truly believe in you taking self-responsibility, seeking guidance from outside sources, tapping in with community, for example, so that you can really share and understand what's working for each other. And let's face it, that's the way it once was. We'd work as a community. We'd really be able to help each other and point each other in the right direction. So, all right. So as I said, we're just about to get underway with leaky gut. Love to know if you're, where you're coming in from, if you're joining here live. I'll just check out a bit of the stats going on right now. New tech. It's always fun. Tell me, do you like technology? Is technology your friend or foe? As we're getting underway here for the show. There we go, I'm a poet and I don't know it. Is technology your friend or foe? Let me know as we get underway for the show. So, Linda, our community manager here, shared, she's joining us here on Facebook. She said that my grandmother died from bowel cancer the week I was born, and that was a long time ago. And the situation has got much worse over the decades. So I believe this info is important and life-changing. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, hey, Emma, great that you could join us. Hi, Susan. So Sue writes in actually that that my mum's dad went into hospital for cataract surgery in his late 80s, and whilst recovering in hospital, the doctors found his bowel was just starting to develop cancer. My poor grandfather had the cancer removed, but because of his age, he never recovered from the trauma of 2 surgeries in less than a month. He spent the rest of his days in a nursing home. Yeah, and this is where it's so important to focus on prevention rather than cure. Now, that being said, that of course it's nice to have early intervention. And, leaky gut isn't so much about bowel cancer and all that sort of thing. But again, it's an indicator. It's one of those warning signs. So if we look at this here, just bring this up on screen for you here. On the dashboard of your car, you have these warning lights that go off that actually say this is going wrong and this is going wrong, do something about it. And yet somehow many people think that there's no warning lights for us, and yet there always is. And so it's great that we have the system. I don't want to, sometimes you hear us talking fairly sternly about the medical model, but I think the system is great that we have in our Western world, in many of the developed countries, to put us back together when we've let ourselves break down. But it's not a wellness paradigm, is it? So we need to be grateful to have those surgical interventions, those abilities to do not just the research but the diagnosis and everything. But that's all reactive medicine. It's not interventional. So or it's interventional, but it's not preventative. And so we really want to help you to focus on preventative strategies long term, because really, as we love what Dr. Molly Roberts says here. She says that your body will start by whispering, then it'll start talking, and if you don't pay attention, it'll start yelling and shouting, but by then you have an illness. So if you've just joined us here for the show, we're talking healthy. We're in the healthy part of the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. Love to know where you're coming in from. Love to know if you're catching the replay too, let us know. But thanks for joining us live here. It gives us the chance to really be able to communicate. And so great to see some of you there commenting. So again, please share this information with your community members. They do need to know it. And check out, by the way, I notice most of you are joining on Facebook, which we really appreciate. That's where we've been doing our lives for some time and doing the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. But we are also experimenting with broadcasting to some other platforms right now. And so right now we're live on the channel on YouTube. So for those friends that you know who are not Facebook peeps, if you're those of you on Facebook, maybe let them know that we're actually on YouTube as well. And we're even scoping, hopefully. I don't know. It's all it's all new technology here. So you haven't told me here. Is technology a friend or a foe for you? Anyway, maybe we can deal with that sort of stuff in Wise at some point, dealing with the concept of technology. Is technology good or bad? And look, we can have long discussions about technology being not so healthy as we're getting into the 5G debate and all of this sort of thing. But really, things are going to progress. Once upon a time, like 5G, internet, Facebook, and all that sort of thing. Linda was sharing that there were. Maybe I shouldn't share that. But there were times, especially in the outback Australia, where people said, "I'm never going to have a telephone. Why would I want a telephone?" And now we have like multiple devices and phones, and now we don't want a telephone on the wall either, because we have a mobile device, but we're in constant communication. So technology changes, and so must the technology of our thinking as well. So the technology of the things that we're acting upon in terms of healthy, wealthy, wise, all of these sorts of things. It's so important to really update your programs. Download the latest update. Um, so anyway, so I hope that this information today will give you a bit of an update in terms of your whole all-round health and well-being. All right. If you have any questions too as we go along, then do let me know. All right, I think we are ready to rock and roll, as they say. I don't know who they are, but yeah. Okay. We ready? Are we ready for the leaky gut overview as such? So, in terms of what I was just talking about before, sharing with you the whole, your body will start by whispering, then it'll start talking. And if you don't pay attention, it'll start yelling and shouting. And this whole illness-wellness continuum. I was talking there about, whether we should focus on prevention rather than cure. And obviously, we're dealing here with what you can do from a holistic, natural perspective here related to leaky gut. So obviously, if you have developed leaky gut or it's been there, it may have been there for some time, and so we're really going to be dealing with what this, what leaky gut really, really is, and what you can do about it. So by rights, that's not prevention. So for those of you who may be watching this on the replay or joining us now, and you do know that you have leaky gut, then obviously this is an intervention. So it's not a prevention. But what I really want to speak to is for those of you who, you don't feel like you do have any gut problems. Like you say, I don't have leaky gut. I want you to pay attention to the signs that I'll be going through, because, they're the warning signs that say, hang on, whether it's diagnosed as leaky gut or whatever, they're things that, the warning signs, the warning lights are going off on your dashboard, and ignoring them is like smashing the light on the dashboard just so it doesn't bug you anymore. So we really want to make sure that you have that holistic wellness philosophy. All right. So leaky gut. What is leaky gut? So leaky gut, some people consider, is it really a condition? Is leaky gut actually a condition? And it certainly, leaky gut has gained a lot of attention recently because people have realized that it can affect their health and well-being. And mainstream medical professionals don't acknowledge that leaky gut is actually a real condition. But let's face it, that's why the concept of syndrome is there. So often if something's labeled as a disease, it means that there are very clear causative factors, and they've also established a very clear treatment protocol too. So often when things are labeled as a syndrome, they don't really know the causes. So chronic fatigue syndrome, for example, leaky gut syndrome, there are no clear causative factors. Now, so, really, also, I have to say that most medical professionals don't really look to the holistic nature of the body. Okay, and so you do have to go to more of the natural Chinese medical models, or just holistic wellness practices that we believe in, to really see the full picture rather than just the typical isolated. It's a gut problem, so you go to a gut guy. If it's a neurological program, you go to a brain guy. And so unfortunately, fortunately, modern medicine's starting to see the incredible connections between these systems in the body. And so they're researching the gut-brain axis and the gut-brain connection and all these sorts of things. But, it doesn't necessarily make its way into the practice when you go and seek help for something, such as a gut problem. So what is leaky gut? Really, your digestive system or your GI tract, your gastrointestinal tract, is really, in essence, the barrier to the outside world. So if you think you've got the outside of your body and the inside of your body, in reality, right from your mouth through to your backside there, it's theoretically outside your body. So we just allow food to pass on through. So your GI tract really is very important for protecting yourself against the outside world and keeping out, getting the nutrients in, but keeping out all of the disease-causing pathogens and bacteria and fungus and parasites and all that sort of thing. And so your gut microbiome, the microbes in your gut are so important for the overall integrity of your gastrointestinal tract. And so what happens is an unhealthy gut microbiome, so an imbalance in all of the bacteria and fungus and parasites and all that sort of thing, can end up setting up a condition where, and this is alongside all of the foods that you eat and everything, end up setting up a condition where, if you think of your gut lining as these mesh of cells and everything, the holes in your gut are only big enough to let the micronutrients and everything through. They're not big enough to let parasites and fungus and food particles get through. So if you've damaged your gut over the long term from poor diet, from inflammatory foods, from high levels of stress, from medication, those sorts of things, and messing your microbiome, it can sort of the holes can develop, bigger holes can develop. And that means that essentially these tight junctions, they become looser and becomes more permeable, allowing bacteria, toxins, and even food particles to end up getting into the bloodstream. And this is the concept of leaky gut. So bacteria, food, parasites, toxins are leaking into the system, the inside, not just on the outside. So what this can do is it triggers the immune system. So this is a foreign particle that ends up into the bloodstream and everything, and the immune system is triggered. And this can further lead to then autoimmune autoimmune conditions. So it's not uncommon for leaky gut to really be associated with inflammation, allergic reactions. It might even be just simply bloating, food sensitivities, fatigue, digestive issues, skin problems. These are all potential signs of gut imbalance and maybe leaky gut as such. So we've seen in our experience it trigger the underlying trigger of leaky gut, or gut. We could just call it gut problems and not classify it as leaky gut syndrome. But gut problems and leaky gut can certainly they've been linked to chronic fatigue syndrome, migraines, food sensitivities, thyroid abnormalities, mood swings, irritable bowel syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis, and a heap more too. So what causes leaky gut? Well, from a medical perspective, leaky gut syndrome does remain somewhat of a mystery. But here's what they do know. There's a protein that you have in your body called zonulin, and it's actually known to be a regulator of your intestinal permeability. So, you might go to the doctor and say, leaky gut, the word leaky gut, and they go, that's not a real condition. But it is very well documented that intestinal permeability is a real condition. And so the challenge is that they don't know, does intestinal permeability cause disease, or is intestinal permeability a symptom of disease? But they do know that it exists. And this protein zonulin is a regulator of intestinal permeability. And so when it's activated, which it can be activated in genetically susceptible people, it can lead to leaky gut. So there are two factors that trigger the release of zonulin, and that's some types of bacteria in the digestive system, so the wrong bacteria, back to the microbiome, or foods such as gluten. So there's really multiple contributing factors, but they're two primary things: a messed up microbiome and anti-nutrients from things such as grains. Okay, so it's any wonder, since we're on a grain and sugar-based diet today, that people have gut problems. When you look at that can cause intestinal permeability, then we're absorbing things that we shouldn't be absorbing, and then our immune system is triggered. So here are some of the things that do trigger leaky gut, and certainly there are also things that are medication, antibiotics, steroids, over-the-counter painkillers, aspirin, these sorts of things, even paracetamol. These can all irritate at least the lining of the digestive system and damage the protective mucus layer. And this then starts an inflammation cycle, and then that leads to intestinal permeability or leaky gut down the track. So, something very simple leads to a worsening condition if we don't get back on top of it. So again, if you have any questions or comments or experiences and everything, do let us know. We'd love to be able to communicate with you and share with everyone else too. So here are some of the things that definitely trigger leaky gut and what we've seen. Excessive sugar intake. So an unhealthy diet, particularly sugar and fructose and everything, can harm the barrier of the intestinal wall. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs that I just mentioned, like ibuprofen and everything, that can sort of blow holes in the intestines. And initially they believed it was safe, but that was way before they had the technology to actually go all the way down and, and with a camera and look at what it can be doing. So initially, of course, they were worried about, for example, aspirin affected the stomach, and they could tell that, and they could sort of do looks rude and everything. They could do that, and then they could take a camera up your rear end, but they really couldn't get into the small intestine until recently with cameras that can be swallowed to see the damage that some of these medications can do. So if you can avoid medication long term, obviously medications can be very helpful in the short term, pain and inflammation and different issues that you might be facing. But again, most of them were never designed to be on long term, and yet people are sticking with them long term. So anyway, I digress. So excessive alcohol intake too, nutrient deficiency such as vitamin A, vitamin D, and zinc have been implicated in intestinal permeability. Inflammation, as I've already mentioned there. Stress, chronic stress. It's a contributing factor to a whole bunch of gastrointestinal disorders. Just general poor gut health as far as the choice of foods and all that sort of thing. And yeast overgrowth, with so much sugar and grains and everything, really letting the candida take over, or any other pathogenic yeasts. And so that can cause leaky gut too. So the interesting thing when we look at all those causes, our easy as 1, 2, 3 philosophy, which is about decreasing the toxin exposure from all sources, increasing nutrition from all sources, diets and supplements, and then optimizing the body's natural pathways. Those 3 steps, when you just go through and start to tackle those things, things begin to improve. Health begins to improve. So you don't need to hunt and pick and look at all of the different individual things, because there's so much that you can do holistically. So what are some diseases that have been associated with leaky gut? Well, obviously celiac disease is characterized by severe sensitivity to gluten, but you don't necessarily need to be celiac to be impacted by gluten. Diabetes, there's evidence that there's an increased intestinal permeability role that happens in the development of type 1 diabetes. And that's because type 1 diabetes is caused by autoimmune destruction of the pancreas cells. And so it's been suggested that this immune reaction has been triggered by these foreign substances leaking into the gut. In fact, one study found that 42% of individuals with type 1 diabetes had significantly elevated zonulin levels. And zonulin, remember, is the moderator of intestinal permeability. We could say that, well, hang on, was that because they had diabetes, or did it lead to diabetes early on in their life? And so they've actually done studies with animal studies where they do believe that the intestinal permeability came first and then the disease came next. So again, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence maybe, but but it's worthwhile taking action to improve your own personal health. So Crohn's disease, increased intestinal permeability plays a significant role in Crohn's disease, and it's obviously a disease where persistent inflammation is going on in the GI tract. And so irritable bowel syndrome, studies have found that with irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, they're likely to have increased intestinal permeability, especially in the diarrhea version. Food allergies. A few studies have shown that individuals with food allergies have impaired intestinal barrier function. So a leaky gut may allow food proteins to cross the intestinal barrier, stimulating an immune response. So these are some of the outcomes from studies. So, there's no doubt that looking after your gut is a wise move. Even Hippocrates said that all disease begins in the gut. And so therefore, all healing for you, whatever the condition that you may be experiencing, it means taking care of your insides, and then you'll start to express better health on the outside. So is leaky gut a cause or a symptom of disease? And that is difficult. Certainly, the evidence, as I said, is that often leaky gut existed before the development of the disease. So, look, either way, it's a wise move to take care of things, right? All right. Let's look now at 10 signs that you may actually have leaky gut. You ready for that? 10 signs that you might have leaky gut. So these are actually from Dr. Leo Galland, the director of the Foundation of Integrated Medicine, putting these together to say that these are, as I said, that it's integrative and functional medicine that really looks at the concept of leaky gut. And certainly we've seen that when we don't have to call it doesn't matter the classification. When you look after your insides, you look after your gut, your health improves. Done. Simple. And that's why we have action plans and programs here in the Savvy team to begin to rejuvenate your intestines and your, not sometimes specifically, but sometimes just from a holistic point of view, just over time. So anyway, Dr. Leo Galland is the director of the Foundation of Integrative Medicine, and he said this: number 1, chronic diarrhea, constipation, gas, or bloating is a potential sign of leaky gut syndrome. Number 2, general nutritional deficiencies. And this is because the inflammation can be really set up and can stop your absorption of nutrients. And so that's why we see, first of all, what in some of our programs, we encourage people to supplement heavily to give them, a new lease on life, while over time we rebuild the integrity of the gut lining, and then they don't need as much of the supplementation. But I mean, this is where it really bugs me when people say, all you need is a balanced diet. All you need is a balanced diet. Well, that's if you're already in perfect health. If you've got some challenges going on, then you need a little bit more action than just, and what's balanced anyway? Most of the diets out there are so inflammatory that they're actually causing many of the gut problems. Number 3 is poor immune system. So number 3. So if you've just joined us, by the way, we're talking healthy here on the Healthy Wealthy Wise show, and 10 signs that you might have leaky gut. So number 3, poor immune system. Number 4, headaches, brain fog, memory loss. Ring any bells? Number 5, excessive fatigue. Number 6, skin rashes and skin problems, acne, eczema, rosacea, dermatitis, all these skin problems could be leaky gut. Number 7, cravings for sugar and carbs. They can also be too much yeast. Candida can cause those cravings, but then again, candida can lead to leaky gut and all these sorts of things too. So, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? So arthritis or joint pain can also be leaky gut. Depression, anxiety, ADD, behavioral problems, all these sorts of things linked to leaky gut. autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, celiac disease, Crohn's, linked to leaky gut. So, we really do. It's really a wise idea to, if you've got those conditions, then obviously let's put together a plan for you to help. These things that I'm going to go through, I'm going to go through 5 steps to improve your gut health and heal a leaky gut very soon. But, look, if you're looking for guidance and support, let's put together a plan for you to get on top of it. So, but obviously for those of you who are preventative strategists, then same things. All good stuff for you too. All right, so the 5 steps. Let's look at 5 steps to heal a leaky gut. This is what we're going through right now here in Healthy. 5 steps to improve your gut health and heal a leaky gut. Now, the key to healing a leaky gut is changing your diet and eliminating foods that your body treats as toxic, okay? So we have on our blog, on the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise blog, we have 12 steps for getting started on the Eat Savvy diet. Now, beginning on the Eat Savvy diet would be a really wise thing if you have any gut problem, because you'll be eliminating some of the foods there just by focusing on the food choices that we have in the Eat Savvy diet, where basically you're eating the foods that are most nutritious and least inflammatory as such. So that will really go a long way to improving your whole gut health. But in particular, things such as gluten, soy, refined sugar, artificial chemicals, all a great start. So diet is by far the most important factor in really healing and making your gut work. But keeping your gut microbiome in healthy balance, this is also going to boost your immune system, support your whole all-round digestion, and really help your body to remove toxins and all that sort of thing too. So are we ready for the 5 steps? We're actually going to go through 5 steps here right now to help you heal a leaky gut. So 5 steps to help you heal a leaky gut. And we're not going through wealthy, we're still in healthy. So 5 steps, we ready? Number 1 is to remove the stuff that's causing inflammation, causing the damage to your gut lining. So you're going to want to choose a low toxin, anti-inflammatory, high nutrient diet. And that's what the Eat Savvy diet is all about, okay? So eating low inflammation foods will help your gut bacteria to thrive and keep the bad guys away as well. So what might that look like? To give you a glimpse. So certainly there's the 12 steps to get started on the Eat Savvy diet is available on our blog. We'll link it up so that you can sort of see that. But even if you just Google Savvy Team Eat Savvy Diet, you'll find it. And so, but what are some of the things? Cut out the sugar and limit the alcohol. Okay, sugar feeds bacteria, promotes yeast growth, promotes the growth of candida, can mess you up as far as inflammation and more cravings. And drinking alcohol in excess diminishes the diversity of your gut microbiome too. So you'll want to eat a variety of whole, unprocessed foods, okay? Eating a variety of foods really helps to nourish the microbiome, okay? And introduce more bacteria too to the microbiome. So more your microbiome, all your gut buddies are more likely to thrive with a diverse, vegetable, rich, unprocessed diet. So even things such as shopping at your local farmer's market, looking for local, like eating organic and or local grown things. So it's very interesting when you look at the research into the microbiome and how you have become, if you've grown up in a certain area, your microbiome has developed, sort of with the bacteria in that certain area from soil and all that sort of thing. And so eating foods that come from the general local area is better for you than importing stuff and all that sort of thing. But obviously, if you're importing things, eating imported food, then going for the organic variety is going to be better. As best as you can, but, obviously, you don't have to go, we're not suggesting you go from whatever diet you're on to full on, craziness there. It's a step-by-step process. It's okay, budgetary constraints, etc. We understand that. You just do the best that you can. You can be savvy on any budget. All right, so eat a variety of unprocessed foods. You want to avoid what we call the anti-nutrients, and these are toxic foods that can cause inflammation. These are even foods that many people think are healthy. And in many cases, these can actually lead to severe autoimmune reactions. So you want to avoid things such as the things that might contain molds, and this is where many people can't cope with the moldy cheeses. Lectins, so in a lot of beans and those sorts of things, you'll want to remove those, unfortunately, because these are inflammatory. So legumes, grains, not so good. Even sometimes the nightshade vegetables, tomatoes, potatoes, eggplant, zucchini, these can all be inflammatory enough that they can cause you problem. So you'll want to avoid these anti-nutrient foods. But certainly soy, grains, beans, by the way, raw cruciferous vegetables you might want to avoid too. So no more of the raw kale smoothies if you're a big health nut. Avoiding raw cauliflower, for example. Lightly steam it. Or actually with things like if you have a leaky gut, things like cauliflower, you're actually better to blanch it in water and throw out the water, because a lot of the anti-nutrients are leached out into the water. We've been told that we should, we don't want to boil it to death, but we want to use more water to leach out some of the anti-nutrients. Yes, you'll lose some of the vitamins as well, but the vitamins and nutrients will be locked up by the anti-nutrients. And the anti-nutrients are more likely to mess you up than just missing out on some of the vitamins. So it's an interesting thing there. But follow the Eat Savvy diet and you're good to go. So eating foods that feed. So this is all in number one. We need to remove the chemicals, remove the things that are damaging your gut. So avoiding the anti-nutrients, avoiding the sugar and too much alcohol, avoiding processed foods. So removing all these sorts of things. You'll certainly want to eat, since we're talking about diet, eat some of the foods that nourish your bacteria. So sweet potatoes, carrots, asparagus, these sorts of things. These are all prebiotic, fiber-rich vegetables. So they're food sources for your good gut bugs. So also foods that are rich in natural probiotics, such as sauerkraut, pickles, kefir, all these sorts of things are helpful too. So skip conventional pasteurized dairy. It can be really harmful to your gut and very, very inflammatory. And it's because of predominantly the protein casein as well as lactose. These can, and sometimes people go, oh, I'm not lactose intolerant, but they're casein intolerant. And sometimes people aren't casein intolerant, but they're lactose intolerant. So one of the things that we do know is that the fats in dairy are usually fine for most people, pretty much most people. So it's the casein and the lactose, so the sugars and the proteins and the carbohydrates in there that cause people most of the problems. So what sort of dairy food doesn't have much of those in it? Cream, butter, cheeses, those sorts of things. But again, commercial dairy can be troublesome, so you'll want to look for more grass-fed, natural, organic varieties of that. And by the way, we're big fans of grass-fed butter and ghee here, but that's the thing. Many people go, oh, I only eat organic butter. Good for you, but if it's organic, if it's simply that the cows were raised on organic grains, it's not any healthier for you because it doesn't have the nutrition that that butter from grass-fed cows has. So you're almost better to have the grass-fed and not the organic. So I'm just saying. Anyway, obviously grass-fed and organic is even better, but hey, what we're really wanting is there's so much more CLA, conjugated linoleic acid, and all sorts of other factors. Like Weston Price talked about the activator X, which is vitamin K2 in grass-fed dairy products, those sorts of things. So anyway, skipping the conventional things, so less milk, more butter, those sorts of things, and certainly less skim milk, processed thing. Now, one of the things is it's the typical dairy, typical A1 milk from most of the dairy that's produced in most regions. It's not just a marketing ploy. Initially, I thought that the whole A1, A2 thing was simply a marketing ploy because cows do produce both proteins often, most of the time. And so I thought, and so then all these producers jumped on, and it says contains A2 milk. Well, yeah, of course it does, but that's a lie because it's a marketing, tactic. Of course it contains A2. But if you have gut problems, what you're wanting to do, if you're going to drink milk, you're wanting to use the A2 variety only, because it doesn't have the inflammatory casein in it. So the casein from the A1 casein protein is more inflammatory than the A2 casein. So just really worthwhile making that extra effort. All right, so so that was number one, eliminate these things. Number two, and I'll probably have to do more of a detailed class on this, a free web class, so that we can delve into some of this. But number two is to reseal and heal. So we're kicking out, removing all the things that are inflammatory. Now we're resealing and healing the gut. And so the things such as bone broths, very good. Collagen proteins, very good. We utilize actually a high-tech collagen so that it really can be absorbed into the body. Collagen proteins, harder to digest, but the more you have, the more bone broth you have, the more healing for your gut it is. And so it's just some of the higher tech things get quicker results. Bovine colostrum, fantastic. We utilize bovine colostrum as a way of resealing and healing the gut over time. And so brilliant. So if you have any gut issues, Crohn's, irritable bowel, leaky gut, then bovine colostrum. We need to make sure that you're using bovine colostrum. Brilliant stuff. Lightly cooking your vegetables, having lots of vegetables, but sometimes the raw ones are going to upset your whole equilibrium. And so not heaps of raw stuff. So more of the lightly steamed, more gentler on your system. You're still not cooking it to death and destroying all the nutrients, but it's going to be better for your all-round gut in the short term. Fruits that are high in polyphenols and low in sugar, so the blueberries and cherries and those sorts of things, and generally taking antioxidants, very good for reducing inflammation. The grapeseed extracts, the curcumin from turmeric, those sorts of things, really good for reducing inflammation inside the gut. So that's number two, reseal and heal. And number three in our 5 steps to improve your gut health and heal a leaky gut is to reseed and feed. Okay, reseed and feed. We need to get these good bacteria, the good probiotics back in, but we also need to feed them. So this is where, you've heard of probiotics, but most people haven't really heard of the concept of prebiotic fibers and resistant starches and the concept of symbiotics. So in other words, making sure that the right food source exists for the right bacteria. That's a symbiotic, okay? So we need to support the good guys with your diet and through supplements. So give your good bacteria plenty of the foods that keep them strong. So probiotics and prebiotic fibers, really, really important. Resistant starches, won't go into it in depth now, but so a lot of the starches there that you have in some of the foods, and also in things like konjac noodles and trehalose, different ingredients that we can take. What they can do is they basically aren't digested by you. They're a carbohydrate, but they're not digested by you, so they don't impact your blood sugar or anything. They travel all the way through your system, and your gut buddies then go, "You little ripper, we have something to eat around here." And so they can actually proliferate. And so this is why we use dual sachet technology here in Australia, New Zealand, with a symbiotic product that has culture and prebiotics ready to go, so that you're basically sending the bugs down with a packed lunch. So, but otherwise, if you're not doing that, you're taking a probiotic or whatever, then make sure you're also getting plenty of other prebiotic fibers from your diet. Digestive enzymes are going to make a huge difference as part of this whole reseed and feed. And so looking at that, it's also going to just help you absorb the nutrients. If you have leaky gut or any inflammatory bowel condition, you're not going to be absorbing as much nutrients. So really, really powerful there. Apple cider vinegar with a meal, or if it's really bad, betaine hydrochloride. These can improve the breakdown of protein because of the improving your stomach acid. Okay. And so a lot of the times people end up with small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, so SIBO, just simply because their stomach acid's too low and they're not taking in digestive enzymes. And so they go from pillar to post to all sorts of doctors, and then they go on antibiotics, and they go on all antifungals, and they go on all this sort of thing. And all they need to do is start taking digestive enzymes, apple cider vinegar. If that doesn't work, just a betaine hydrochloride supplement. And then, boom, they get on top of it. All of these other things are also beneficial as well. So collagen, I've already mentioned collagen, but collagen is so important for all the connective tissues in your body and everything. So again, taking collagen, getting bone broths, those sorts of things, really important in this whole number 3, reseed and feed. Green superfoods are powerful too to alkalize the gut and also feed the gut microbiome. And here in the reseed and feed, you may also want to consider a parasite cleanse at some point. Not if you have leaky gut right now, we need to sort of build you up a bit. But at some point when you're on top of some of the symptoms and feeling a bit better, doing a bit of a parasite and candida flush would be really powerful because, it sort of helps you to kill off all of those sorts of things. The reason I don't think a parasite purge is so good if you're already feeling the effects of leaky gut is the reaction could be too much for you. But we definitely need to do that to bring about that balance quicker. All right, so in terms of reseed and feed, I would encourage for those of you who have children to start them young. Your gut microbiome really is established at birth. So babies born via cesarean have a diminished diversity of the bacteria in the microbiome compared to those born vaginally. So after that, pretty much the baby develops its microbiome through breastfeeding and through diet. So if they're formula fed and then on a typical Western diet, then they're going to have messed up microbiome. And that's why if your child has different bloating and bowel issues and gets sick more often, has skin conditions, all these sort of things, they're all the same indicators that the microbiome's messed up, and we can help you get that back on track. Follow these steps, but otherwise reach out to us and we're happy to help. Reach out to us or one of our wellness guides and they'll put you on the right track. But optimizing the diet for your kids really important, but letting them get outside and run around in the dirt, it's actually okay. The latest trend is soil-based organisms as probiotics because it's what so many people missed out on. We're such clean freaks nowadays that we haven't actually developed the diversity in the microbiome. So now we have to take them as a supplement. How about we just go back to eating natural foods, supplement it with specific strains of probiotics to get on top of things, and we gradually develop the diversity by eating the right foods, incorporating some fermented foods in our diet, those sorts of things. So, all right. So that was number 3, reseed and feed. Number 4 is to rebuild the system, rebuild over time. Look, bone broth and collagen, brilliant for rebuilding the system over time. Green superfoods, astragalus or astragalus herb, and a lot of the Chinese herbs are really good for invigorating the qi and building up your all-round system, and they're adaptogenic, meaning that they sort of adapt their function in the body. So you're not just sort of so you're looking after your system as a whole. Chinese herbs consider a parasite purge as well as rebuilding, but the most important thing to rebuild there is to be on a long-term varied Eat Savvy diet. Now, when you're first getting on the Eat Savvy diet, we just encourage you to be fairly consistent with certain meals that you know how to cook, because often we're in a rut as the types of foods we eat. But then you can gradually branch out to be able to feed your microbiome with different foods. Okay, and here in this particular rebuild, I would caution you to be careful with antibiotics and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So regardless of how hard you're working on your diet and on all of the nutrition and all that sort of thing, if you rely heavily on medications, then that's going to damage your gut. And so it's so important, you'll never, if you've been on antibiotics like I have, I was on long-term antibiotics for skin problems, and I didn't know any better at the time. Knowing what I know now, the skin problems were caused by a messed up gut. And I messed my gut up even more by being on long-term antibiotics. And then I suffered from migraines and things like that. So if you go to the symptoms that I talked about before, chances are I, as a kid, didn't have a good microbiome and I had leaky gut and other gut dysbiosis going on. And so, we've got to get on top of these things. So really, for those of you with children suffering from unexplained conditions and everything, look after their gut. Start on the inside there. They might complain and grizzle a bit about changing their diet, but you'll eventually find creative ways of getting them onto a savvier diet. Number 5 is restore. So we're sort of rebuilding the wellness in the body, and then we really need to restore the overall wellness. And this is our long-term 90 nutrient program, holistic wellness philosophies. But it also brings in, when I'm talking about holistic wellness philosophies, it brings in the emotion. Scientifically, they now know about the gut-brain connection. So stress, worry, fear, all of these sorts of things really can mess up your general gut health. So tackling stress is so important and profound to heal your gut. Okay, studies have really proven this whole gut-brain axis, and stress has been shown to lead to depleted nutrient absorption, depleted enzyme production, lower oxygenation in your body, and less blood flow to your GI tract to absorb the nutrients. So, and stress can even affect the microbiome as well. So we deplete the diversity there. So again, if we can manage our health. Now, by the way, on the flip side, when people look after their gut, eat savvy, start to balance out the microbiome, because of the gut-brain axis, they then feel less stress because there's more nerve pathways going from the gut to the brain than there is from the brain to the gut. So when you nourish your gut, you'll almost change your whole outlook on life. So important. So there we have it. That's been the what do we call it? 5 steps to improve your leaky gut. So 5 steps to improve leaky gut. That's what we've been going through here on the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. So I'm just going to check and see how we're going with you guys. And so getting on the Eat Savvy diet, as I just flashed up on screen there, really important. Really help you. It's free, so no excuses there. No excuses. Then you just got to practice it. Probably there's some excuses there. All right. So I noticed some of you have been writing in some huge comments, which I can't bring up on screen here when they're huge, but that's okay. Nice to see Sue. You're joining in from. Can't see that on screen here with my black shirt, but Sue's joining in from YouTube. So great information. Thanks for sharing. Thanks, Sue. So does anyone have any questions here about anything? I don't see any questions here in the system, but I'm here to, and by the way, if you have any inspiration or insights that you learned from that, or things you're going to take away from doing, from this particular discussion, then do also let us know here. Right, looks like Sue says that she's trying to be a bit savvy here. She's on all sorts of different things. She's on a Facebook Live with her phone, hosting a watch party on a laptop, and she's watching on YouTube. See, I mean, women can multitask. That's maybe a topic for... Well, anyway, I won't go there. I might get myself in trouble if we talk about multitasking and women, right? Anyway. So there's a few testimonials too about autoimmune conditions and everything that Linda has shared by the looks of it in the comments for you. And so sorry those of you on YouTube and Periscope, that's in Facebook. So swing by Facebook and you can see some of those comments because they're too big for me to put up on screen. Like for example this. Too big. Great story from Nadia there. All right, so I think we're almost right to go. Move on to the next topic. So look, if you've been joining us here for the whole discussion on healing a leaky gut, how can we help you? Is it leaky gut or is there something else you'd like to know about? Then please do let us know. We actually have a form that you can fill out to like a brief survey that helps us to ascertain your needs, wants, and desires, and then we can point you in the right direction. And really for your best wellness journey, you need a plan, you need some solutions, you need guidance, and you need community. Okay, and so if you want to cut through the confusion and have a guiding hand in the process of achieving wellness, then we can help. Become part of our community today. Just reach out to us and we'll be glad to help you out. And so one of the best ways to start is to request an invitation into our private Healthy, Wealthy, Wise group. Because look, if there's something that you would like to improve about your health and wellness, we can guide you there. So thanks for joining in on this healthy section of the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. We're now going to jump on into time for us now to talk about wealthy. We're going to jump on into the wealthy side of the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. And we're actually going to be talking about 8 tips to become financially free faster. So 8 tips to become financially free faster. So if that sounds like something that you like to do, stick around for these particular tips. And if you know somebody who's into improving their financial situation, wanting to become financially free, then maybe share. By the way, if you are new here, if it's your first time here joining us, then if this has been shared with you, someone shared it with you, then if you're on YouTube, consider subscribing and hitting the notifications so that you find out when we're live in the future, and any other videos that we might choose to upload. We're looking to put together some other things to go into deeper on some of these aspects that we talk about on the show. And of course, if you're on Facebook or wherever, if you're catching us on Periscope, then follow us there. And if you're on Facebook, then give us a thumbs up and like the page, and then click see first so that you don't miss out on being notified in the future. So I'll just check a little bit here to see whether there's anything else that we need to talk about. Any questions come in? No, just lots of comments coming in here. Love to know if you have any questions about any of that we just covered. Or insights, inspirations. Okay. All right, well, let's just jump on into wealthy. So if you have just joined, welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. I'm your host, Corey Sievers, and we're going to be dealing in wealthy here. We're going to be talking about 8 tips to become financially free faster. So if that sounds like you, great that you could be joining us here and as we discuss this particular topic. If you have any comments or questions, do please let us know as we go along. So 8 tips to become financially free faster. And by the way, what does financial freedom mean for you? What does freedom mean for you? What do we mean by financial freedom? Let us know. What are your thoughts? Okay. Have you been a big dreamer? Have you been someone who's looked to create freedom in some way? Have you tried different things? Let us know what your thoughts are, and obviously, as we go through these tips, we'd love to hear your general thoughts. So here we go for the 8 tips to become financially free faster. So, before we get underway, I guess with that, becoming free in a lot of ways has a lot more to do with restraint and tenacity than brilliance or luck, And in here in the Savvy team, we've often done courses around Wallace Wattles' The Science of Getting Rich. And the interesting thing when we talk about the science of getting rich is that, what he says in that is he says that people who follow the certain way that he talks about get rich either on accidentally or on purpose. If they follow this, they get rich accidentally or on purpose. So it's like, how can you get rich accidentally? How can you become financially free accidentally? It's because it's more of a thought paradigm. It's being using your will for your thinking and controlling your thinking and getting off the negative thoughts and following some of these steps here. So if you've ever thought about getting ahead financially, then I think these steps might be right up your alley. So let's jump on in and deal with them. Number 1. If you're wanting to fire your boss and become financially free, financially independent, maybe become a lifestyle entrepreneur, plenty of people want to do these things, but it's really easy to get stuck in a rut or be reluctant to get out of your comfort zone. And you need support and guidance generally to really help you break free. And this is where mastermind groups and all this are really, really powerful, and attending events and seminars and that sort of thing. But that's what our Savvy Home Business division is all about here in the Savvy team, where we really take you by the hand, guide you through some of the principles to create an online income stream in the booming wellness industry. So if that sounds like something you'd like to explore, then certainly chat with us. But I think that either way, whatever you're doing, whatever entrepreneurial endeavor or career you might be in, I think that you'll find these 8 pieces of advice helpful in getting you on your way. So number 1 is to develop a written plan. One of the main reasons why someone does not achieve the level of freedom or success, for that matter, that they desire is that they haven't written a plan. Developing a plan forces you into action instead of just talking about it. It guides you in making the right decisions in order to achieve all of your dreams, whether it be a certain level of financial success or whether it be freedom. So when planning for a more secure future, there are a couple of things, I guess, that are pretty indispensable. How much money you make and how much you spend, right? So 2 things: how much money you make and how much you spend. Pretty basic there. These are 2 basic inputs in your whole financial freedom plan. And the biggest difference is I guess awareness. Being not difference, but the biggest thing to focus on is awareness. What's going out and what's coming in. And Robert Kiyosaki, in his financial guru author, in his all of his lessons and books and everything, really talk about understanding the cash flow patterns. And we deal with this in our cash flow class, which is a free class that's available inside our private Facebook group, the Savvy Home Business private Facebook group. So when creating a plan, you want to focus on what matters most and not obsess about the past, by the way. It's very easy for the plan to be based on what's happened before rather than what you want to create. So focus also on what you can control by listing your known expenses in your budget, looking at the income that you have left over, looking at your discretionary income, seeing whether you're happy with the spending patterns there, and focus on the future by anticipating. Visualizing it, seeing what you can do, and then create a plan to achieve it. And if you need help, this is where you can seek help from a financial planner, talk to your accountant. You can certainly, if you're looking to create additional income streams, then you can certainly chat with us and we can help you there if you have a passion, especially for natural well-being. So develop a written plan. Spend some time writing down some ideas and generating a plan. So number 2 is to focus on increasing your income. Focus on increasing your income. So the FIRE movement, the financial independence retire early movement, was all about really lowering your expenses to the bare minimum so that you can stack money aside and retire as early as possible. Fantastic. And if you've ever played Robert Kiyosaki's game, the cash flow, then it was about that. It showed you if you had lesser expenses, you could achieve freedom faster. So that's a great idea, if you want to achieve freedom. But that's not, we're not in a situation where everybody can do that. There are legitimate expenses that many of you have with families and all those sorts of things. But so the tip that we have here is to focus on increasing your income rather than cutting your expenses. And Kiyosaki said a quote, and I'm paraphrasing it here because I don't have it here in front of me, but it's more important to increase your income than cut your expenses, just like it's more important to increase your... I can't. Oh, I've got it somewhere. I'll see whether I can find it there. Increase your dreams rather than cut back your dreams. But again, we've talked about this, that a lot of the times we cut back on our lifestyle rather than expand our income. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be prudent from a financial point of view, but again, focus on increasing your income. If you look at wealthy individuals, and I'll go through some of it in just a moment, that increasing income is more important. So in fact, I was reading up some information about Grant Cardone, and he said that in today's economic environment, you cannot save your way to millionaire, he said. And so he went from being broke and in debt at 21 to being a self-made millionaire by 30. And he said, the first step is to focus on increasing your income in increments and then repeating that over and over and over again. So step by step, you're increasing your cash flow. Now, of course, you want to control your expenses. Some companies have gone broke because they've expanded, but as they've expanded, they've not been able to cope with the growth because the outflow is there and not enough inflow. It's the same thing for you financially in your home too. So follow the money. Look to control, to increase your revenue. Look for opportunities to increase your income, and then don't expand your expenses at the level of your income. And this is one of the challenges that happen in the job arena and careers. You get a bigger pay, you get a new position, and your lifestyle increases to meet the position. Whereas if you can keep your lifestyle there, then you can put the money aside and achieve freedom faster. Now, most people still will not be able to achieve freedom with simply one stream of income. And that's why what we do is help you to capitalize on some of the booming trends right now and create an income stream from home. So that's number 2, focus on increasing your income. So, and Cardone says that thankfully there are several options to boost your income. Get a side hustle. And certainly that's where we can help. So talk to one of our team. So number 3 is take advantage of the tax rules. Okay? Take advantage of the generous tax rules that exist in all sorts of different countries. So Linda wrote in for us here, it's more important to grow your income than cut your expenses. It's more important to grow your spirit than cut your dreams. And that was what Robert Kiyosaki said. So thank you. Awesome. So the tax laws, many people get upset about the tax laws in different countries and they say, oh, terrible. And that's because they're upset because they're not capitalizing on them. But the government puts them in place to trigger certain activities. And so the people who are, yes, the tax laws favored those who are, creating, developing, whether it be real estate or whether it be business or whether it be infrastructure development and that sort of thing. So they don't favor just you being you. So they don't favor that. So use the tax rules and everything. Talk to your accountant. Okay. Some investments can really grow your nest egg in a tax advantaged way. Certainly, obviously, in this region of the world, super funds are a way of growing a nest egg in a tax advantaged way, but there are a lot of restrictions on when you can access it and all that sort of thing. So, again, talk with your accountant about ways to maximize your cash flow. But one of the advantages of a side hustle and a home-based business is the tax advantages. So there are legitimate expenses that you're incurring that you could claim a percentage of on tax. Whereas if you're employed, then you've never had that experience. Okay, and so business owners know that. And one of the things that Robert Kiyosaki says is that rich people earn their money, they spend what they can, and then they pay tax. Very simplified, yes. And he said, whereas poor people earn money, they pay tax, and then they spend what's left. And he's simplifying the tax laws here, obviously, but the tax laws favor those who are entrepreneurial minded and start their own business, even a side hustle. So home-based business can really be tax advantaged. Real estate can obviously be tax advantaged too, but that's only because you're operating at a loss. Okay, so negatively gearing, for example, that's a tax strategy. But again, I'm not a tax accountant, so talk to your accountant related to all of these sorts of things and how it applies for your unique situation. But take advantage of the tax rules that are already there. Number 4 is increase your streams of income. So what I was meaning, number two is to focus on increasing your income rather than just cutting expenses. Great quote. Love that. It's more important to grow your income than cut your expenses. It's more important to grow your spirit than cut your dreams. And that's just so thing. So dream big, yes, but then look for opportunities. So now number 4 is about increasing your streams of income. So after studying the habits of high net worth individuals, what I've seen is that they don't rely upon trading time for money. They've never relied upon trading time for money. They've not relied upon a job or a typical small business. Now, Kiyosaki puts this as the E and the S quadrant. So high net worth individuals, those who've really done well, have not really been an employee or a small business owner. They've found ways to create leverage by crossing over to the right-hand side of the quadrant, okay? And so being a business owner and an investor. So this is about increase your streams of income. So being able to not just rely upon one source of income that relies upon your time. So when you think about it, even somebody who is self-employed, in some way, whatever way, some self-employed person, they have many income streams because they have many clients and the ability to find more clients, right? So they're not. If one client says goodbye, then that doesn't really make any difference, unless you're in a consulting game. And many people are in a consulting game, and they have like one big client. If they lose their one big client, then it's all over, Red Rover. So that's almost like just having a job. So how can you have more than one income stream? To begin with, that's where what we can help you do to create an income stream in the wellness industry that gives you an extra income stream. But the great thing about the type of stream that we help you create is it's leverage. So it doesn't rely upon, in the long term, it doesn't rely upon just your efforts. So there are technically streams of income from multiple different sources, even in that one income stream. So increase your streams of income. And we cover that more in depth in our cash flow classes. Again, if you're interested in this sort of thing, then request an invite into our private group, the Savvy Home Business Group, and we can tag you to the class. All right, so automate your savings is number 5. So get into the habit of saving and contributing to your super fund, for example. If you're over in the States, you're at a 401k, contributing to emergency funds as well, so that there's a bit of a buffer there. Some people even invest in gold for their emergency fund. But the way, it's really about automating this whole process. Take a percentage, set it up so that a percentage disappears right off the top. So in other words, you get your income and then you put a percentage aside. So Many people consider that 10% is good towards investments, 5% towards savings, for example. Um, Now, 10% can go, we've seen people suggest that 10% of your current income go towards personal growth if you're looking to increase your income, because your income seldom exceeds your level of personal growth. And we'll talk about that in just a moment too. But again, invest in yourself. That's the best investment that you'll ever make. And so that does lead us to upgrade your skills and knowledge. Upgrade your skills and knowledge. So, you can read more, you can listen to more podcasts, relevant podcasts, find mentors in the realm that you're working in, tap in with events. You don't just want to be a master in your current field. You want to sort of be fairly well-rounded in skills, consume knowledge, consume knowledge like a healthy diet and like air. Jim Rohn said that your level of income seldom exceeds your level of personal development and skills. So this is why this is such an important one that we have in here, to upgrade your skills and knowledge. Number 7 is to manage your cash flow patterns. Okay, obviously live below your means and lay off the credit. So reducing your credit, but that's what the first thing that we teach people to do when they develop an extra stream of income is not to increase their lifestyle, but to reduce their debt and then still keep focusing on increasing their leveraged income. And that puts you in a much healthier financial situation. So, it's a way of diversifying your income streams with a side hustle. And it looks like Linda's made a comment about the gig economy in there at present. So manage your cash flow patterns. Okay, so some of the wealthiest people in the world are actually quite frugal. Some might say tight, but they don't spend excessively on designer luxury items, for example. They live below their means. They often purchase modest homes and vehicles, and they do other things with their cash. Now, obviously, we can go to the extreme and be the Scrooge McDuck character there, where we just want to accumulate and we don't want to enjoy. And that's not what we're talking about. And that's not what Kiyosaki means. You want to expand your dreams. We're talking here about financially free, not having to worry about money, not having to rely upon a boss to pay you, not having to open the shop every day, and being able to achieve lifestyle and even location freedom. That's what we're talking about here. So manage your cash flow patterns there. So we're talking here about also debt and everything. There are 3 in the cash flow classes. I cover that there are 3 debt killers, and so one of them, 3 wealth killers, 3 wealth killers. One of them is debt, really because of the interest. So anyway, number 8 is associate with winners. In most cases, your income mirrors the people that you spend most time with. This isn't exactly, it's not exactly a new philosophy. It's been around ever since Andrew Carnegie embraced the whole mastermind principle. And then that was written about by Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. And so I'm right. Why have I got a memory blank on Napoleon Hill? Yes, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, mastermind principle. And he studied Andrew Carnegie and all the wealthy people. And it's, again, hang around with winners. And so it's interesting that one of the things that we've seen working with people and everything is when things get tough, often we want to distance ourselves and go and lick our wounds and hide under a rock and all that sort of thing. And that's the worst time. That's the time when we need to be associating with winners. It's the time when we need to be doing the personal growth to develop ourselves. Otherwise, we're just slipping back into our rut and our comfort zone. Okay, so important. So there you have it. If you're looking for a guiding hand and you're wanting turnkey systems to help you to capitalize on the growing wellness industry, then if you're open to learning more about what we do, then certainly reach out and request an invite into our Savvy Home Business Group. But I want to share with you this particular quote to leave you with, that though no one can go back and make a brand new start, anyone can start from now and make a brand new ending. So, if you've had some situation where things you've had struggles in the past, finances have not necessarily been going right, you had dreams and they've been beaten out of you or whatever, then don't give up. Okay, don't give up. Keep with it. Tap in with a supportive community of some sort. Use the mastermind principles. Follow those steps and really just stay positive. Stay on the journey. That would be my advice. So does anyone have any inspiration or insights or comments that they would like to share about what we just went through there in Wealthy? So one of the things there, what have I seen here? So Linda writing in that a mastermind group is a gift that keeps on giving because it thrives on the generosity of each individual member. Love that part. Really powerful. So there was that quote that I was looking for that we have here, that it's more important to grow your income than cut your expenses. It's more important to grow your spirit than cut your dreams. So powerful. So yeah, any inspirations or insights? Any questions? Happy to discuss things too. So again, we're doing inspiration and insights here. All right. Well, it sounds like it must be about time for us to move on to the wise part, and this is actually quite something that's quite, I guess you could say, near and dear to my heart, because so we're moving on into wise. Wise. All right, so if you have just joined us, it's Corey Sievers here with the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show, and we're jumping on into the wise segment of the show, where we're going to be talking about 10 top tips to deliver your message clearly and effectively, even if you're a nervous new speaker. And so this topic here in wise is near and dear to my heart, because I'm here sharing with you. I've shared these particular tips with different groups in the past, and I was asked to speak to a speakers group about these tips because of the fact that I had learned a thing or two about speaking into large groups of people and training as well. And now it's like doing this, chatting with you here virtually. And so there are a few tips that I'd like to share with you about helping you get your message out there to the world. So you may think, well, I don't want to do that, but this is the new day and age. It's very interesting about what we're doing here, whether it be communicating in an office. We're still dealing with people. You're still going to be having to get your message across to your work colleagues, to your family, at some point in your life, you're going to be called upon to deliver a speech, right? At some point in your life. And so the more you can know what helps you and pay attention, it's certainly public speaking is something that is the number one fear. People fear public speaking more than they fear death. So, and for those of you who have got used to speaking in public or whatever, then you know that it's a skill that you can lose if you don't practice it as well. And so whether it be speaking in public or speaking here, to people that are everywhere, it's a skill that you develop and that you practice and that you cultivate and that you pay attention to. So you don't have to be perfect. You just have to get started. So as I said, I shared this to a group of speakers. I'm very privileged to be invited to speak to a group of speakers about these particular topics. So I just want to share them with you here. I think you might find them valuable, whether it be in your career or your business, or if you want to stretch yourself and grow and maybe share your message more with the world. All right. So thank you, Linda. Nice of you to say. You have lots to teach on public speaking. Thank you. All right, so here we go. We ready for number one? So number one, I love this one. Number one tip to help you deliver your message to the world, and 10 top tips for nervous speakers really, is to say yes. Say yes first and think later. So if somebody says, hey, would you like to come and share your story with us in this group? You go, yes, I'd love to. And you panic later. Think about it later. That's what I did to develop my abilities and skills and practice, really. People would say, would you like to share that? I would say, yes. Sure, love to. And then go, what did I do that for? Am I crazy? How am I going to do that? And then I'd stretch and grow and everything. And so this is depicted so well in the movie Yes Man, the Warner Brothers movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey. Love this movie. Now, it's not necessarily an endorsement of the movie, guys, but if you haven't seen it, then it might be worthwhile seeing. But the story basically goes that he was sort of down on his luck and stuck in his rut, and he went to this personal growth seminar, which was about saying yes to things rather than no to things. Stretching out of your comfort zone by just, if someone says, do you want to do this? You go, yes, I'd love to do that. And that's what I did with speaking. Someone would say, would you like to speak? I'd say, love to, and then panic later. And and the movie just shows how much he came out of his shell because he was willing to just say yes first and then do it. Now, the movie also teaches discernment because he felt then obligated to say yes to everything. And so interesting things happened, and he got to speak to the person who delivered the seminar, and the guy said, no, you get to choose. The philosophy of saying yes is just to get you out of your comfort zone and used to it. Then you start becoming more discerning. And that's certainly where I'm at now, where I choose what I'm saying yes to, okay? And so, but to begin with, you just want all the opportunities that you possibly can. And I'm going to be talking later about a special guy, a special man who, that's how he got started in his legendary speaking career. He said yes and then just kept saying yes. So he was a yes man, and I think you'll stick around to hear about who that person was. So you'll also want to improve, and practice is the only way that you're going to be able to improve. So saying yes gives you that chance. Share what you have to share. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all of the things. Share what you have to share. I mean, that's what I said before. I was, someone asked me to do a talk on speaking to a group of speakers. I said yes, but then I was embarrassed and sort of uncomfortable and thinking, what have I got to share with them? They're speakers. But I did it anyway because it helps you grow, and they found it very valuable. So stretch, you might surprise yourself. So that's number one. Yes, say yes. Number two is to know your limits. Know your limits. I just talked about stretching outside of your comfort zone and saying yes, but know your own personal limits. Do you like this image here, by the way? For those of you joining us live on one of the broadcasts here with a dog with a massive bone. So study the speakers that you enjoy and pay attention to what they do and think about it and emulate them. So whenever I was sitting in a room and everything, there'd be two messages, two inputs coming in, a bit of stereo going on. There'd be the message that they were doing, but I would be paying attention to their delivery and whether they were able to connect with the audience, whether I was enjoying their message, whether I had the ability to do that sort of thing. Because like you might notice that I tend to be more of an animated speaker, but you don't have to be like that. The mystery man I'm going to talk about was not a very animated speaker, okay? And yet he's a legend, okay? So, but I tend to be more animated in real life things and here on these sorts of live sessions, but that might not be your personality. That's okay. You've got to do your thing. Do your thing to the best of your ability. Know your limits. So study the speakers that you enjoy and emulate them, but know your limits. Know that if you can't pull off being animated or whatever, then don't do that. If you can't pull off certain things, then don't do it. You may grow into that, but don't crash and burn because you push the limits too much. So don't get ahead of yourself is the thing. Be real and don't get ahead of yourself. So stretch your boundaries, but be yourself. So we're talking about sharing your message with the world. So know your limits, be yourself, but with a vision of who you want to become. And when I say know your limits and be yourself, that doesn't mean explain stuff away or express where you're embarrassed and all that sort of thing. Sometimes that's worthwhile, but sometimes it just detracts from your message and your reach. Be yourself. There is something right now as I'm speaking, whoever you are that is listening into this, there is something that is in you that needs sharing. It might be part of the community, like we have many people sharing the mission and vision of what we do in the Savvy team. But there's something there that you can share, that you're uniquely capable of sharing with the world. So get out there and share it. So number 3 is use what helps. So I have President Trump pictured here, and he is using he's behind a lectern and using a teleprompter. Now, this is a really, really important topic because it bugs me what people are told, what expert speakers tell you. And so, like I just said, big deal, big drama. You shouldn't say You shouldn't use filler words. Be yourself. So what? I just said Be yourself. Do what you can do. More tips later about how to start to eliminate those sorts of things, but use what helps. So you need to be comfortable. Many people speak, and by the way, before I go into that, this is President Trump. When I did the talk, I was showing other presidents, that were behind lecterns and reading from teleprompters and those sorts of things. So, there's been some interesting things with Trump and teleprompters, but nevertheless, understand that if it's okay for the president of the free world, the president of the United States, and all presidents to use a lectern and a teleprompter, then it's okay for you to use what you need to help you. It's okay. And this is what I was sharing with that, because all of the speakers will say, don't use notes. It's unprofessional. Don't lean on a lectern. It's unprofessional. Don't read from the screen. It's unprofessional. Well, if it's good enough for the President of the United States, it is good enough for you. And you'll only improve by getting up there and doing it, right? So use what helps. So many people say you need to speak from the heart. So you shouldn't need notes, or you shouldn't need a teleprompter, or you shouldn't need a lectern to calm your nerves because you speak from the heart. I call phooey on that. Because if you're communicating a message to people, you're not talking about you. You're speaking to their hearts, not from yours. Yeah, of course you're speaking from your heart, but it's more about getting into their world than just saying who you are. This is me, this is me. You're not speaking from the heart. You're speaking to the hearts of your audience. And so if you need notes, if you need a PowerPoint, if you need something, if you need a lectern to lean on, then do it. Use what helps. Use what helps you. So your message is more important than your delivery. And so if that means you have to get up there and give an address, meaning that you're behind a lectern and you're basically saying things, there are many people who give an address. Okay? And so just remember that. If it's good enough, say that if it's good enough for the US president, it's good enough for me. Use what helps. Number 4 is to be prepared. Definitely know your topic. Create concise ideas that you can share. Think about how your ideas will land. It's not just about sharing it, but think about it, imagine it, think about how it will actually land. Visualize yourself delivering the talk as well, and practice if you need to. So you may be somebody who needs to actually speak it out and practice it. Do that. do it. You may also just be able to simulate in your mind and be able to go through the talk in your mind and see yourself doing it. That's what I do a lot of the times. And so, but be prepared. Know your work. Be prepared also means that have contingency plans too. So a lot of the times, this is it's been very interesting. People would say, like large organizations would say, come talk. Yes, send us your PowerPoint in advance. And because we need to include it in the show and everything. And so I would do that. And what I would do as well is bring it on another stick, bring it in a separate version, bring my laptop, bring the cords that I might need. And you know that because here's the thing, if I'm not prepared, I'm the one that messes up, not the tech team that didn't have everything ready for me. So there have been situations where I have had to grab my computer, give it to them, have them connected in, and bring all of my own stuff. I'm not saying that you need to do this, but this is the situation that I've been in, and I was prepared. So I said, no dramas, let's use my laptop, boom, 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 and I'm presenting from a large stage with all of these things. I've even saved my PowerPoints in a PDF format in case of problems. I've printed the slides up and given it to the tech team so that they can know where I'm at, so that they don't just advance things. Be prepared. Think in advance about what could go. Look, it's one of those things, isn't it, that they say, you get what you prepare for. So if you prepare for mishaps, you'll get mishaps. Well, maybe, but maybe if you're not prepared, then you just have egg on your face. So be prepared. And so really, really important. So practice if you need to, but be prepared. All right, number five for these 10 top tips is to record yourself. Record yourself. Few different reasons here. You'll want to record yourself in practice mode, but you'll also want to record yourself when you're live if possible. And it's so easy now with phone technology and lavalier mics and everything that you can do that. Now, obviously, if you're just getting started and whatever, you might just put your phone right on there and hit record and voice memos and record yourself. No dramas. Do whatever you can to record yourself, because one thing, you get to hear the delivery and you can think, I didn't like the way I said that. You can't go back and fix it, but you can improve next time. I don't like the way I sound there. You may have to get over it. I had to get over the way my voice sounds. Because if you're not used to listening to yourself on a recording, the first time you hear your voice, you just think, oh my God, I don't sound like that, do I? And if you record yourself, you might know, because sometimes when I get a little bit excited, I might, Gary Vaynerchuk does this too. So it's okay. If it's okay for Gary V, it's okay for me to sometimes speak at a high-pitched voice when I get a bit too excited and like this sort of thing. And then I listen to myself back on the recording and I think, Corey, why did you do that? You're an idiot. Don't beat up on yourself, but record yourself. So, but it's only by doing that you can then focus on self-improvement. So that's the thing. Record yourself because you'll want to get used to hearing yourself. You'll want to, so number one, you'll want to get used to hearing yourself. Number two, you can improve. And number three, you just might be awesome and it's not recorded. Do you know that I did, speaking about mishaps and everything, I usually record myself. So I actually have in this little package here, I have recording software on the phone. I have another microphone, but I actually turned an old original iPod, little iPod Nano into a recording device. And so I can plug an adapter in there. It's really light, and I basically took this absolutely everywhere with the lavalier mic, and it was so light it could sit in my suit and not be an issue. And I would just record everything. Okay, I'd listen to myself and go, "Oh, I didn't like that. Oh, geez, you sucked there." Oh. But the one time I did an amazing, sometimes when you're doing presentations, it's just not, you're in a situation where it's just not replicatable. So I did this talk that I called survival training to a big auditorium with tiered seating, everything. So the environment was amazing, and so a training, sort of a large 600, 700 people, I think it was, and so they were and it was all for a business community, so they were already G'd up and all that sort of thing, so it was really easy. So I came up with this survival training topic, came out dressed as an army guy, had contacted colleagues in the army, got the real cam gear, everything, did the boots and everything, came out and did this thing. It's just not replicatable without that whole environment. And they were supposed to be videoing it. They were supposed to be recording it. And so I just trusted them and didn't record it and didn't set up people to video it either. And none of the recordings worked. None of the recordings work, and I didn't have it. I'd put so much effort into the actual delivery of it. It was just not repeatable. I haven't had another opportunity to repeat that. And so if I'd have recorded that, I would have had that on audio. So it's just my encouragement to you, just make that little bit of extra effort to record yourself. You just might be awesome. All right. Number 6 is, I call forget the how now, brown cow. Okay, elocution lessons are not necessary, darlings. The pros can often make errors, just as I said before. Not that I'm a pro, but I said on camera. And, there may be things that would make your English teacher cringe that you say. Okay? Accept the criticism, but be aware of what's going on. So people who are elocution lessons say that you should enunciate to the back of the room. And while projection of your voice and all that sort of thing is so important, getting professional and everything, listen to the criticism, but then just, take it at whatever. If your message is getting across, then pay attention to that. So it's not necessarily about, trying to say all the right things. Have your own unique style. And so my little mate here, Yoda, grammar teacher's worst nightmare, Yoda is. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Forget any feeling like you have to say things properly. Just get out there and share. All right. Next is to involve the audience if appropriate. Involve the audience where possible. So there are lots of speakers who do that very well and others who don't, and that's okay. They're different styles of delivery. And this talk that I was talking with you about was where I involved the audience. It was just not replicatable either. It was, and I'd thought about how do I get some humor going on there, and I was dressed as an army guy, and I had everybody standing up, and then they sat down, and I told them they can't sit down. I got at them and like this. And the funny thing is that I'd picked a couple of people that were leaders in this particular business in the front row, and I approached them and said, are you going to move ahead? This blah 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 blah. And they said yes, yes, yes. And I said the appropriate answer is yes, sir. And and they did that, and it was engaging to the whole audience there. So you involve the audience if possible, because you certainly don't want them all falling asleep like they're hypnotized here. And look, this is where facts tell. They say facts tell and stories sell. Well, stories engage. Stories engage, and if you can engage the audience with interactivity, then great. Now, while I'm on that, involve the audience and engage the audience and create what I call a bit of a memory hook. Now, this is really important. Create a memory hook. The That one that I was just talking to you about, that survival training talk that I did in this large room. Do you know what? Do you know the people in that room remember the talk, and you know why they remember it? Because I had them all go, "Yes, sir," and because of the fact that I was dressed as an army guy, and so yes, sir, and so I still to this day, even though that's I think about 6 years ago, I still have people that go, "Yes, sir." And it's their sort of nod to me that they were in that room, but that they remember it. That's creating a memory hook. Okay, so they remember that talk. Now, there are some people like our mystery man that I'm going to talk about who they're in a position where they don't do different talks. They do the same talk all around the world over and over again. Lucky them. Their memory hooks may be harder to implement because it's the same talk, but what I'm talking about is different talks. I did another one where I was doing a very technical talk. And so since there are different types of personalities in a room, some people can be more detail-oriented. Some people are more people-oriented. Some people are fun-loving, all these sorts of things. So I knew that once I got to a detailed screen on the PowerPoint, that I'd have some of the audience, about statistically, I think it's about 30% of the audience would have started to switch off. So I actually said, so for those of you who are not detail-oriented, don't look at the screen. I said, look at me, look at me, look at me. And that was the memory hook. So everyone still remembers the look. They still come to me and go, look at me, look at me. And they remember what the talk was about too, because of that. They remember what the talk was about because of the yes, sir. These are hooks. And it's so important, and most speakers do not use that sort of thing, so they are not memorable. Okay, and the talk is not memorable, and that's the thing. If you're wanting the message to be delivered so that people can engage and remember that, then you want to look to be memorable. Now, admittedly, some of those were in large environments where it was, involved the audience where appropriate, where it was very appropriate to do that sort of thing. So, some ideas for you there. Think about it. And it won't come to you every time. And of course, it's not going to always work. And of course, you're not always going to have a hook in everything, but do what you can. So number 8 is to take control. Now, this picture here has a bit of a freaked out looking lady here. Take control. Take control of yourself and the situation. You want to avoid freaking out, obviously, before you're about to speak. And so take control where you need to. So to give you an example of how I learnt to take control. When I was first started to be asked to speak, often they would put you in the front row of an auditorium. And so you're in the room there in the auditorium, and so you're sort of there, and other speakers are talking, other speakers, and everything's behind you. You're right at the front of the room. And I noticed that when I would jump up from the front row and then walk to the podium, I would be so much more nervous, because I couldn't see what was going on, and I didn't know how the audience was responding, and I was there in the front row, and I was jumping up from the front row. So I was self-aware enough, and I really encourage you to take control and be self-aware. So what I did was go, hang on, that doesn't work for me. So what would happen is people would say, I've reserved seats for you down the front. And I'd go, I so appreciate that, thank you. But I'd prefer just to mill around at the back of the room if that's okay before I go on. And so I might say that's okay, but I'd still do it. Take control. Whereas if you're just ushered and put in your seat and you don't take control and you're not at your best, then you've not been self-responsible. Okay? So self-responsibility, taking control in the best way possible for you to deliver your message is the most important here. So I would always mill around at the back of the room because it just made me feel more comfortable. Okay? So don't let circumstances throw you, like I said before about them losing things or not being able to do something. Certainly, one of the challenges with technology is when you rely upon technology, it's so much harder. And I really aim to make a lot of visual things. And so sometimes that's a downside when your message won't be delivered as powerfully if all the AV setup goes down. But do what you can to take control and prepare for that sort of thing. So don't let circumstances throw you. Give the audience what they came for. Now, this is an interesting one. So here in that show, by the way, we're we're on our Saturday shows, we're just going for longer. We're not trying to cut it down. So some of the shows will be longer, some will be shorter, depending on the content and the engagement and the questions and all that sort of thing. That's what we want. We really want to be able to be here to engage with you and chat with you about these particular topics and also about what's important to you. So sometimes they'll go longer, sometimes they'll finish shorter, but give the audience what they came for. Now, you want to be professional and aim to end on time, but if you get to, if you said, we're going to share 10 top tips for nervous new speakers, tips to help you share your message with the world. And then I go, all right, well, we're at tip number 8, but we're out of time right now. So I'm sorry, I have to find a way to give them what they came for, even if it means rushing through the last 2 or getting approval. Say, look, I apologize to the organizers and to you guys that I'm going to have to go over time, but you guys want the last 2 tips, don't you? So that there's sort of a bit of an open communication about that, right? So be responsible, but avoid apologizing, if possible, rather than saying, oh, I'm being dragged off the stage, I'm given the time is going off. I even see there's no drama here because professionals do that. Oh, I'm out of time. Looks like I've got 1 minute to go or whatever. Just acknowledge that and do what you can. Just be professional because you don't want all of that in the recording if possible. You want to just deliver your message and you want to deliver it to the best of your ability. So give the audience what they came for. Don't apologize. Take control. Do what it takes to make you feel comfortable. Tip number 9 is to make eye contact. Okay, so make eye contact. Now, you don't want to stare at each person in the room, stare them down, but you also don't want to focus on one particular area of the room either. Do you know what I mean? And get really fixated there just because you're uncomfortable. And so really try to cast your eyes, if you're in a room, try to cast your eyes around the place, not necessarily eyeballing individuals to make them feel uncomfortable, but basically making eye contact. And and that means too when we're dealing with a live situation. So for those of you dealing with a live situation, this is an interesting setup here because when you're in a room, you can see what's going on, and you can see the engagement. You can see when you're losing people and people are falling asleep. You're not falling asleep, are you? Hope you're with me. Look at me. Look. Anyway, and so making eye contact in a virtual setup here is a unique experience because you've got to get yourself used to just looking into a camera without any people there. And it's really disconcerting when you first start out. My nephew, for example, I noticed what they're teaching them to do is to actually, like he's 12, they're teaching them to actually be able to speak into a camera. They have had to deliver homework by actually speaking into a camera and delivering their stuff. So once you might have had to deliver a talk to the classroom or whatever, and now they're being requested to deliver their message directly to a camera. How's that for the fact that things are changing? And this is the same sort of thing for you, getting your message out to the world too. So make eye contact. And that means that when you're doing like a selfie cam, it's very easy for you not to look at the camera because it's on this iPhone here, it's very hard to see where the camera is. And the tendency is to look at yourself. So that would be like this. that would be like me making eye contact, but really I'm looking here and looking here. And you notice, obviously, while I've been doing this talk, because I'm looking at notes and looking at technology and all that sort of thing, I'm not looking at you all of the time. But you know that because it's live, that there are other things going on. But if I spent the whole time talking like this and not making eye contact, that's going to be really disconcerting for you. Whereas if I actually can make eye contact with you by looking into the camera, even though it might have been weird for me to begin with to do that, then that's more powerful. Make that eye contact. All right. Now, if you're in a room, by the way, move if appropriate. But otherwise, if it's more appropriate to stand at the lectern, then do that. So I've seen people that move just for the sake of moving because it makes them feel more powerful. It didn't add value to the talk, right? So it was only a short talk. So they got all mic'd up and everything. They moved around and walked around just so that they felt more powerful, not so it helped the audience get any more powerful message. Okay, so move if appropriate. Be sure to include all aspects of the room. If it's a large room, then obviously you want to cast your eyes to different areas. You're not going to make direct eye contact. If you're in front of a camera, really practice looking into the camera, as disconcerting as that may be initially. Number 10 is so important. Examine yourself. Examine yourself afterwards. Examine your performance. Don't just have it over, oh, well, thank God that's over, and then move on to the next thing. Take the time to examine your performance. Ask yourself, what could I have done to improve that? Take some notes. Think about it. All right, so you don't beat up on yourself for anything that went wrong or what you didn't like about it or whatever. Just acknowledge that. Go, what could I do to improve? What could I fix about that presentation? What didn't I like about that? Now, if you're like me, you may never be able to do that same presentation again. You might be asked to do a different topic or a different topic. And so you never get to repeat it and craft it like many speakers. Many speakers simply have the same message that they go around the world crafting. And they do the same movements at the same time. So nothing's dynamic. Whereas, if you're wanting to practice being live and giving your message to the world and everything, you might be often talking on different topics. So totally different to these professional speakers. So that's a whole new lot of skills where you've got to think on the fly and think about how to make yourself comfortable and examine what you're doing there to improve your delivery. So what could I fix about that presentation? What didn't I like about what I did? Could I have connected with the group more in some way? What could I have done? Next, this is so important. How could I be more comfortable in that circumstance again? This was the powerful one for me. How could I make myself more comfortable in that circumstance again? Well, I could have been better prepared, for example. Other ones in these top 10 tips. I could have taken more control. I could sit at the back of the room. I could make sure I have notes. I need a visual cue. I need these sorts of things. And as far as taking control, for example, recently I was asked to speak on a live group that was also being broadcast and recorded. And I was restricted on the types of things, since it was relating to a wellness-based product. I was restricted based on therapeutic claims. So so what they said is, well, it's a short talk. I would be in front of a room with no lectern, no ability to have any notes, no ability to have anything else. I've just got to deliver it, and you can't say this, 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 you can't. And so it's like, what? So this is where I'm not sharing from my heart. I'm sharing the message with a whole bunch of restrictions. So back to the tip of use what helps. I said, well, I will need a visual PowerPoint, direct people's attention to the PowerPoint and to keep me on track so I don't say the wrong words, since you're restricting the things that I can say. And so we changed things, and I created a visual PowerPoint as triggers for me to deliver that talk. Okay, so, and then that made me more comfortable to deliver the talk without the concern of using the wrong words, okay, that weren't pre-approved. So look natural, look as though it's coming straight from your head, but only say pre-approved words. And so that's the thing. So I didn't have a teleprompter like presidents might have. I had a PowerPoint that was my trigger, right? So of course I ad-libbed on that, but then I knew that was a way of reminding myself of the words. And so I requested that in order to, knowing myself, I requested that in order to be able to deliver what they requested to the best of my ability. Okay, and again, that recording is still being utilized all around the countryside. So, and so that was a very important thing. I didn't stray off script. I didn't make a therapeutic claim, and was able to stay on point. So I knew enough in advance by examining my performances that I could ask for that and have it done. Okay. So, what did I do well? Pat yourself on the back. Pat yourself on the back and prepare for next time. But look, in all of this, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to get started. So right now, many of you could be sharing your message a lot more often by going live, by getting a tripod, getting your phone up here and starting to talk. There are entire YouTube channels and success stories of people who just started going live and holding their phone. Just holding their phone and talking. Some of them started whole channels just with an iPhone and uploading it to YouTube. Share your message with the world. You don't have to be perfect. So I was talking about this mystery man before that I had the great pleasure of seeing, a legendary speaker and mentor to millions and many speakers, a business philosopher, someone who spent his life as a professional speaker. And I had the great pleasure in my 20s of being in a room, a National Speakers Association conference, in the front row with this legendary speaker that I was just like, oh, wow. And here I was thinking maybe one day I'd like to have the confidence to speak in public. And I'm like, wow, here's this guy. And there's a few things that he did that were fascinating. So, again, I was always paying attention, not just to the message, but to the delivery. So he was there and he had his notes rolled up. So this is this professional speaker. I'm telling this to you because it's really important. This professional speaker had his notes rolled up in his hand like this. Didn't look very flashy, standing at the podium the whole time. And he would when he wanted to make a point, he would just bang his notes on the podium. And he would repeat the words again. So, for example, I just said you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. Now, how did that feel for you? Now, that may be his bridging. He may not have known what to say next. But all he did was repeat his words. How would that help you? How would that help you in going, now, what was I going to talk about next? I can't really remember, but would it be better for you just to repeat the previous thing you said? You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. That pause actually creates more value, doesn't it? Rather than trying to space fill. Now, I know lots of, Linda, our lead wellness guide community manager and co-founder of the Savvy team, is often saying, Corey, you have to fill every blank space. You have to fill it up with words. It's okay to give people a break in what they're listening to. Yeah, I know. So this mystery man, this is what he did in his front row. Through his talk, he was standing at the podium and he would get out his handkerchief. And he was going like this. Now, I know what it's like to have an itchy nose and everything when you're a speaker, and you just got to do what you can do. But he was going like this. And then talking and talking at the podium, leaning on the podium, which many professionals say you shouldn't ever do. And yet he's a legendary speaker. Wiping his nose, which I'm sure many professionals would say you shouldn't do. banging a rolled up daggy piece of thing on the bench, which many professionals say you shouldn't do, and wiping his nose. But the thing that really got me is this legendary business philosopher and speaker in front of everybody, after wiping his nose through the whole time, went like this. And I thought, I can do this. This legendary guy, he was standing at the podium. He had notes. He was just pausing when he needed to. And he even wipes his nose and looks at his own boogers. If he can become a legend, then I'm good enough. I'm good enough to do that. And this legendary, does anyone know who this legendary philosopher, this professional speaker, anyone know who this might be? This speaker was none other than Jim Rohn. So yes, I was in my 20s in a national speakers conference with Jim Rohn, and he did all of those things. And yet many speakers would classify Jim Rohn as their mentor. Pretty much always stands behind a podium, which lots of pros say you should never do. Often has daggy pieces of paper there that he bangs on the desk, which people would say that you shouldn't do. Often repeats, has done one talk, pretty much, his whole life. And even looks at his boogers. If he does that, however you are at sharing your message, it's good enough. It's good enough. Okay? Really such an important realization that you can do this, that however you share your message, it is good enough. And so all right, I seem to have lost you. We're back. Technology. So just wrapping things up there, I guess that's the whole thing that I was talking about there. Is it's just a matter of being willing to step up to the mic and share your message wherever that might be. If it's just behind a computer or if it's in a room, then just step up and practice. Just be you. Do what you can do. You are enough. If that's the message I can share with you, you are enough. Your message is important. So that's been the 10 top tips for nervous speakers and how to share your message with the world here on the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. So does anyone have any insights, inspiration, or things that they would like to, share with us? I'll just go and check out what's going on here in the comments, and we'll wrap things up. Yeah, so Linda writing here that it's actually good to pause and give people a mental break. Well, yes, that may be the case. That may be the case. Dear. So, yes, I'm not sure what tip that was, but applying this tip has made a huge difference to me. I'm glad. That's terrific. You are enough. Indeed. You are enough. All right. So, well, look, thanks for being with me here on the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show. Love to have you back again. We're here live 9 a.m. on Saturdays, Australian Eastern Standard Time. So we'd love to be able to see you back here for the show. But, if you're new to what we're doing here in the Savvy team, then if you're looking for improved health and vitality, or maybe money and lifestyle, whichever one is there for you, then we can certainly help. So the money and lifestyle, we can help you through by help you with capitalizing on the current trends in the wellness industry through our Savvy Home Business division. And obviously, you'll hear us talking about lots of topics related to health and vitality improvement. But really, for your best wellness journey, you need a plan, you need some solutions, you need guidance, and you need community. And we provide you with everything here in the Savvy team. So how can we help you? What can we do to help you? And so probably the best thing is just to jump. But that's the thing. Things go on, don't they? You just work with it and improve it next time. So that's it. Corey Sievers here from the Savvy team and the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show, encouraging you in everything you do to be savvy. So all the best. We look forward to catching up with you next time around here on the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise show.